everybody, welcome to the Book of Joe, my variety channel. It's time for an episode of Baseball Talk. In today's episode, we're going to do the 2018 predictions, and I am way behind on this, like 7 days or so. And that's because I've had a hard time getting videos out since little baby Riley was born. I'm having a hard time finding time to do this, but my wife's got the baby. I actually took a couple days off, so I'm going to do this video, and I actually have one more plan that I'm going to try to do both this week. And then we'll see what happens from there. But I got to get my predictions out. Now, the season is about 7 days underway. If you know anything about baseball, 7 days does not make a season. So there should be no fluctuation. These predictions I actually made well before the season started. So let's get started. And just to be clear, I'm a National League guy. I tend to watch way more National League games because I'm a Cubs fan. But I do keep a close eye in the American League. I do play fantasy baseball. And it does require you to kind of know a little bit about everything. So I do try to keep my eyes on all of the baseball. But I am a National League guy. So I'll probably get into a little more depth when it comes to the National League predictions. But let's go ahead and get started in the American League West. To me, there's a clear favorite in the West, and that's the Houston Astros. While I think the Angels and other teams are good, I don't think any of those teams are the Houston Astros. Houston Astros added Garrett Cole. They just got a little bit better. They just won last year's World Series. That's the team to watch. While it's hard to repeat World Series wins, I think if anybody can do it, it's going to be this year's Houston Astros. They are a good team with Jose Altuve, with Keuchel and Carrera. They're just a good team. So I think you got to watch the Houston Astros in the West. Clearly, they're the favorite in that division. That's kind of a weaker division. While I think the Angels will make a little bit more waves this year, they did sign Shohei Ohtani, and they picked up a few other bats. I don't think it's going to be enough. The Houston Astros clearly have the favorite in that division. Moving to the Central, I picked the Cleveland Indians. While there are a couple other teams in that division that can do it, I don't think any are going to be able to take on the Indians. The Indians have a strong rotation, and if Michael Brantley can be healthy and hit the way he can, and then you got Francisco Lindor and Edwin Encarnacion, if those guys can step up, I think they can have some impact bats in the middle of the lineup to score the runs. I think their offense, or I think their pitching is going to be outstanding again. If guys like Carlos Carrasco can come back and pitch the way he could, if Salazar could pitch the way he's capable of pitching, he's a big strikeout guy. I suspect you're going to see the Indians making it in the division into the playoffs. Moving to the East, I think that my prediction's a little different than most people. Most people are picking the Yankees. I'm going to pick the Boston Red Sox. Boston signed JD Martinez to be that big bat in the middle of their lineup. I actually don't have the Yankees doing as well as everybody else thinks they're going to do. I think that Aaron Judge is going to have that typical sophomore slump. I don't think he's going to go off for 50 home runs. I don't think Giancarlo Stanton's going to hit 50 home runs. He's going to be learning a whole new set of pitchers in the American leagues. I think they'll be good, and the Yankees will make the playoffs, but they will not win the division. The division will belong to the Boston Red Sox, and with their starting rotation, the back end of their bullpen, and some of their bats in the lineup, I think they've got what it takes to win that division. And that is a tough division because you've got other teams like the Orioles, who I think will be better, especially with they just signed Alex Cobb right at the tail end of the offseason. I think they'll be better, but I truly believe that the Boston Red Sox will win the division. In the wild cards, clearly the Yankees are going to take one, and I have the Minnesota Twins in the other one. While I think the Orioles are going to be close, and I think the Angels will be kind of pushing in there at the end, I have to give it to the Twins. I think the Twins are one of those teams that are kind of gritty. They've got Dozier and Sano. If their pitching can be strong, that's a team that can definitely take them a long ways and get them into the wild card. From there, once you get in, anything can happen, but I do have the Houston... Sorry, my dog hit the camera. I do have the Houston Astros moving on to the World Series, where they will face off against a team in the National League. A couple other things. I think that Buck Showalter from Orioles will win Manager of the Year. I think he's going to get his team so close to the playoffs, potentially taking a wild card spot from the Twins, that they're going to have a lot of discussion about him being Manager of the Year. I think Shohei Ohtani will be Rookie of the Year. To be fair, that is something I have changed in the last 7 days. Prior to the season, his spring was so bad, I didn't think Ohtani was going to do it. I thought he was going to be a bit of a bust. He's already done very well early on in the season. I mean, it's a long season. Anything can happen. But I wasn't going to pick somebody in the American League, so I guess I'll just go ahead and say Shohei Ohtani will win your American League Rookie of the Year. So your American League MVP is going to be Mike Trout. The guy is just a five-tool player. He's gonna put up big numbers again this year. and he will be American League MVP. I think Stanton and Judge will split votes, which will hurt both of them in the voting, but I don't think they're going to have the years that they had last year. Let's move to the National League. In the National League, let's start in the West. I'm going to pick the Diamondbacks in the West. Now, a lot of people like the Dodgers, and I don't blame them for liking the Dodgers. Dodgers are a good team, but I think the Diamondbacks are a little more gritty. I think they're underrated. Guys like Paul Goldschmidt are underrated players who I think Goldschmidt will be runner-up to MVP this year. I think he'll be your number 2 guy behind the MVP. But I think the Diamondbacks have the team that it can. They'll probably have to do some moves at the deadline, which they have the players to do. I think they're going to be able to take down the Dodgers. I actually don't think the Dodgers offense is as good as most people give them credit for. And I think there's some 2 question marks in their rotation. That's Rich Hill and maybe even Kenta Maeda and Alex Wood. Now, Alex Wood's kind of proved himself over the last couple of years, but I don't think Rich Hill is as good as he's been. He used to be an old Cubs prospect. I've seen him pitch. I with the blister issues and his age, I just don't think he's going to give them the innings they're going to need. And then losing Justin Turner in the spring training, he had that broken wrist, I think is going to impact him enough for the Diamondbacks to win that division by a game or 2. Moving to the Central, it's a no-brainer. Duck Cubs. I think they're the best team in the National League. They've got one of the best rotations in baseball, 1 through 5. They've got a young core of good hitters. If they can cut down the strikeouts, they'll be dangerous. That's their biggest problem, is they strike out too much, and they're not as effective in situational hitting with runners at third and 1 out. If they can kind of core that up under new hitting coach Chili Davis, I think that team. I believe the Cubs can be the team to beat in the National League and the National League Central. So I am picking the Cubs to be the team in the National League to go on to the World Series, obviously. But if I couldn't pick the Cubs, I would be picking the team out of the National League the National League East, the Washington Nationals. I think that's a team that's going to be a difficult team to beat. They've been in the hunt the last few years. They've always come up a little bit short. If I couldn't pick the Cubs because of biasm, I would pick the Nationals to be the team in the National League to go on to the World Series. I think their coach David Martinez is going to win coach manager of the year. I think they've got a potential Cy Young candidate in Strasburg, as well as their number 1 guy, which right now his name totally. Hang on, I gotta check now. I can't think of his name. Max Scherzer. Yeah, that's the other guy. Max Scherzer, Strasburg. I mean, these guys, Gio Gonzalez, they've got a good back end of their bullpen. They've got a good back end. So I think the Nationals could be the team in the National League. They've got Strasburg and Scherzer. I mean, those guys are always candidates for the Cy Young. This year, I would give the Cy Young to Clayton Kershaw. Rookie of the Year is going to come out of the Braves and Acuna, Acuna. And the MVP is going to be Chris Bryant from the Cubs. I think Chris Bryant is going to have his best year yet, and he's already won 1 NL MVP. I think he's en route to win number 2. I think Harper, who's already had a great start to the season, will be up there, but I think Chris Bryant's numbers are going to be better. So those are, and so then let's take a look at the wild card. The 2 wild card teams in the National League that I think will be in there. I'm going to take the Dodgers and the Brewers. The Brewers. If the Brewers could go out and get 1 or 2 legit starters, and if they had picked up 1 more legit starter in the offseason, I think they could have even competed with the Cubs in the Central for the division. I think the Brewers are good enough to win the wild card. The dark horse here, though, I think is going to be the New York Mets. The Mets have a solid rotation when healthy. If that team can stay healthy, they can get and do some big things. So those are my predictions. I think from there, the Cubs and the Astros are going to play in the World Series, and of course, the Cubs are going to win it all. That's my prediction for 2018. So I've given you the players, I've given you the predictions. I think the big surprises are going to be that the Yankees aren't going to be as good as everybody's anticipating. I think Judge is going to have a bit of a bust year in terms of numbers. I think Shohei Ohtani is going to be better than I was ever going to expect. I thought he was going to bust out. For at least his first year, I didn't think he was going to be any good. I think that Chris Bryant is going to have a big year, and I think even somebody like Kyle Schwarber, who nobody really anticipates to do good things, is going to put up some big numbers. But for the most part, that's my predictions for this year's baseball season. I think 2018 will be a Chicago Cubs season. Now, like I said, the games are already about five days in. I haven't seen too many big surprises. There's a couple teams that have moved to the top. I think the big surprise to me is actually that the Cubs are only 2-3. They did not start their season the way you would have anticipated based on the teams they were playing, and they had a couple they got shut out a couple times. So I think they can do better. But that all being said, guys, that's my predictions for 2018. If you like baseball, stick around this channel. I'm going to have a lot, I'm hoping to have a lot more baseball talk this year. So hit that subscribe button, throw up those thumbs, tell me below what you believe your 2018 predictions are, and if I'm crazy to think that the Yankees are not the team everybody thinks, and same thing with the Dodgers. People have got the Dodgers and the Yankees going to the World Series together. I just don't think it's going to happen this year. I think it's going to be the Astros and the Cubs are going to defeat them probably in 7 games. But those are my predictions, everybody. I hope you guys stuck around. Hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. And until next time, cheers.